Hello, everyone. Today we are going to take a look at something called the New Deal. In 1932, this country was in the throes of something known as the Great Depression, which you learned about yesterday. People were out of work, jobs were hard to find, and a lot of people had lost their money in the stock market and in banks that had closed. So we elected a new president. This president's name was Franklin D. Roosevelt, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, also known as FDR. Um, One of the first things FDR came up with was something called the New Deal. It was a set of policies meant to get the country out of the Depression, mainly by creating jobs to put people back to work. There were a lot of different programs, but one of the biggest programs was something known as the WPA, the Works Progress Administration. The Works Progress Administration primarily hired people for construction work, but it also hired musicians, writers, and people to kind of write a history of things that were going on. And basically, what the WPA looked at doing was put anybody to work that could be put to work. So if you were a laborer, they tried to find work for you and create jobs for you could labor. And if you were a higher educated person who could write, who had skills that way, they tried to create jobs where you could be employed, writing, doing something. And this benefited the Pacific Northwest in a lot of ways. There are 7 things listed in the text, including improvements to the King County Airport, road construction, jobs on fish hatcheries, housework and child care services, services for the elderly and the blind, and then lots of building and public art projects even. But the biggest benefit of the WPA was completing the construction of Grand Coulee Dam. This had kind of lingered for a while because there wasn't funding to build the dam. Well, the Roosevelt administration found federal funds, which are funds that come from the U.S. government through the WPA, to pay for the building of Grand Coulee Dam. And Grand Coulee Dam employed over 12,000 people in its construction. And that was just in the construction of the dam. So it employed people in the region servicing those people, providing them food and providing them other services. So it really helped our economy. But greater, it helped our economy as we move forward from the Great Depression, because as you know from our first unit of study, the dams produced a huge amount of hydroelectric power and reduced energy rates in the region. And the dams also provided valuable irrigation for growing crops out in the Columbia Basin. So Grand Coulee Dam is the biggest thing that came out of the WPA and out of the Roosevelt administration for this part of the country. Okay. And so go ahead and read through the rest of the article. And at the end, it kind of talks about how labor benefited and the workers benefited during this period. And finally, how the worst of the Depression ended about 1939. It still wasn't great, but slowly businesses opened up again. So go ahead and read the entire article, learn in depth about the New Deal. It's an important part in the history of the country and Washington State. And then once you were done, there is a very short quiz for you today. It's got 6 multiple choice questions. And the 7th, which is not mandatory, it asks for at least 5 WPA projects for you to list them. They are listed on page 169 of your text. So that's the assignment. If you have questions, let me know.